Smith. I appreciate y'all coming to hear me. Yeah. We're talking about some new stuff going on in the metal roofing business that you may or may not be aware of. If you do metal roofing, there may be something new for you. Okay. So, I don't know how many of you are aware that the warranty from U.S. Steel has changed in a very positive way. I don't know how many of you have ever used a symmetrical stainless seam versus a snap panel or a double lock panel. But if you've never used one, you probably ought to look into it. It's just way better. There's a new symmetrical panel out now. It's very interesting for doing metal building work. You know, we run into problems if you're doing an existing metal building and you're doing a remove and replace on a metal building and bringing it up to the current energy code. We're trying to put 9 inches of bad insulation over the top of the purlins, which is a ridiculous challenge, and especially on jobs where they already got all kinds of stuff in between the purlins already, bracing, bridging, etc. Well, there's no way you're going to get 9 inches of bad insulation in there. So there's a couple of ways that might be able to solve that problem for you. There's a new rigid insulation out that's designed to go all over the purlins. I don't know if you know about it, but we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about structural enhancement while recovering or retrofitting, which is an enormous deal. For me, this is probably one of the biggest deals that's come down the road in a long time. Very, very big deal. So anyway, so we'll just get with it, right? So U.S. Steel, who supplies most every metal roofing manufacturer in the country, has increased the warranty on bare galv aluminum to 45 years from 25 years. This is a material warranty non-perforation. If it's got paint on it, it's good for 50 years at a 1/4 inch slope. So that's a remarkable number. So they're saying that this stuff ought to last 60. Right? They're not doing it because they think it'll last 50. They think it'll last 60 at least at a 1/4 inch slope, and that's just unbelievable. When you compare that to a single ply that will get hailed out. Anyway, it's a game changer, and it's something that you ought to be aware of if you do metal roofing. Most anybody that is in the market now uses U.S. Steel. Most of the major players, not all of them. But they're the guys that stepped out there first. Everybody else will follow suit, but they're the guys that stepped out first, right? So what caused the metal roof to fail? Really, number one thing is a bad installation. You gotta have good guys put the roof on. You know, it's like a metal roof that's properly installed will never leak, and then one that's not properly installed is gonna leak until it blows off. So, number one place to have the problem with a metal roof is on inlets. So there's jillions of guys now that have portable equipment where you can make metal roof panels without inlets. So that's a given now. Really, there's no excuse in my mind for ever having a roof system that has an inlet in it. Now, exposed fasteners that are inside the building envelope. Those can be a source of leaks, especially when they're in inlets where the panel's fighting itself during expansion and contraction. So over 20, 30 years, those exposed fasteners are going to leak. Large penetrations on a metal roof, not so good. But when they're put in, when the roof is installed first, you know, right this time the roof is installed and they're relatively easy to, you know, to put in and get in there correctly. But if you have a double lock standing seam, how many of you guys have had to pull a double lock standing seam apart? All kind of fun, right? And it looks perfect when you put it back together. Right? So this is what happens here. These guys, they have a double lock standing seam up here on this building, and there's no way for them to pull it apart to put the curve in right. So what do? They put this together, which is guaranteed to leak, right? So all these things along with the fact that especially on these industrial roofs or double wall standing seams, they're impossible to fix. And so for me, that's it's just unacceptable. I don't want to supply it. I don't want to be involved in a roof that you can't make a repair to. So these are your choices out there if you want structural panels. For me, these snap panels, I don't want a water shedding panel. I prefer for my roof system to be watertight. So if you got a 1-inch nail strip panel, gee whiz, guess what? It's not watertight. I want a watertight roof system, and the only way you're going to get a watertight roof system is one that's mechanically seamed. So that's either a trapezoidal standing seam or a 2-inch double block or one of these symmetrical panels. There's plenty of guys in the symmetrical panel game now. These are more watertight, and you can make easy repairs to them. So for those of you who haven't seen one, this is one right here. This is the one I made, but there's plenty of them out there. They're a 2-piece panel. You got a cap, you got a panel. It's the same on both sides. What's that do for your installation? Start where you want to, go backwards, forward, skip holes, come back, backfill holes, cut this, use it right there on a hip valley. So you got a lot less scrap, you got a lot more flexibility on the installation. And then you don't have to worry about, these 2-inch double lock panels. You got a 2-piece clip. That's how much movement you got on that panel. So maybe that's good for a 200-foot panel if you fix it in the middle. But, if you don't install all your clips exactly perfect, you're going to have some clips installed like that, some clips installed like that on the same panel. Guess what? Your panel don't move. So, and then the fact that you can't ever fix this, So for me, it's all about this idea of individual panel replaceability. These clips have these panels have a fixed clip. The clip sits inside the hem, panel moves back and forth on a fixed clip. So you don't have to worry about where the clip is, or if you need a fixed clip or a floating clip, it's always going to be a fixed clip. And the panel snaps down to the clips. And then you've got a seam cover. You have 2 pieces of sealant in the seam cover. The sealant sits here out here on top of the panel roof. There's no interruption in the sealant. These panels have an interruption in the sealant wherever there's a clip located. Unless you put a whole bunch of goop on top of the clip when you're installing it, but sure it does that way. So, and then you have a cap that goes on, down, and the seamer runs up. It takes that, does that, which is nothing. So now you got a seamer, runs 5 times faster because it runs in both directions. Down one panel, up the next panel, down one panel, up the next. So it's seaming the roof up a lot faster. And then if you ever have a problem, there's a thing called unseamer. It'll unseam the cap. Right? It's a seamer that pulls a plow. I'll show you a video. And then when you got a problem, you pull individual panels out through the roof. Everybody that makes this panel makes a continuous clip. A continuous clip. This idea of continuous clip. So this is what they look like. 2 pieces go back to back. 24 gauge, 22 gauge. You run these whatever length that you want to, then you snap the panel down into them. Okay. These continuous clips, they triple the wind uplift capacity of the roof on open purpose or on retrofit with a roof hugger. If you're going to go on a building that has an existing furnace, basically a 5-foot on center, then how do you get there? If your wind pressures are higher than 50 pounds per square foot, then you're going to have something. You're either going to add purlins or you're going to have a continuous clip. So this continuous clip saves it, from having to add purlins on a retrofit job. The problem with a continuous clip is if you're doing this on an open purlin with that insulation, you're in for a wrestling match. You're trying to install a 30-foot long clip on open purlins with 6 inches of bad insulation. You're going to be left with an anaconda for these things. So, outside of that, these things work great on retrofit jobs, recover jobs where you're using a roof hugger or a half section or a tall cliff or something like that, where you're going over an existing building with pros at 5 foot on center. But they are somewhat problematic on jobs where you have bad insulation. Okay? So why do I use these symmetrical panels? There's no latch on it because the panel is side formed if they're too long to ship. Okay? They have by far the most watertight seam design. They're easy to repair after they're installed. And where we see the problem, 90% of the time, I think of it being like 10 years from now, they want to add a curve. Really, it's for new construction when Mr. Bricklayer sprayed acid all over your roof. Or the plumber punches a hole in one place. Bam, I got a job in South Louisiana right now. They need 6 new panels because the plumber punched a hole in the wrong place. Right? And it's just pop the panels out, pop the panels in, bam, done. Really no big giant argument between everybody. Not like a double upstanding seam. Holy cow. So we have really super high wind up capacity with these roof systems. We have continuous cliffs. You don't have to add framing in the edge zone or the corners, most likely. You got unlimited thermal movement. My longest panel today is 416 feet. So that's a long panel. They're easy to curve, they're easy to taper. You can also do 24-inch widths on these panels. These panels are 24-inch width. You know, certain types of jobs where you're talking about on a steel deck with ISO, you're talking about really getting on with the roof. That guy's putting like 15,000, 16,000 square feet of roof down a day with like 10 guys on some 120-foot panels. You know. So that 24-inch width on the right job is great. So it's something to think about. You can take it down to a 1/4-inch slope. And then I got this crazy idea about some transverse panels. We'll talk about this at a later date. So the panel is very flexible, which is nice. You can twist it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it. Center start, you got a lot less scrap. You can jump curves, so you get up to this curve, and you just jump it, keep installing the roof, and then you send your guys back to build the curve flashing to fit exactly. So there's no slowdown in the production on the roof. Seam runs in both directions. You can pre-install the clips. Those continuous clips have to be pre-installed. So here's a seam. I mean, that'd be my more simple. Yeah. Right. Up one panel, down the other. This is a 1 3/8-inch tall version of the panel. So there's the main panel has always been 2 3/8. And I did a 1 3/8-inch tall for like residential application. And then I got to do 2 3/4-inch tall. And I'll be showing you. This is what makes the system great. And this is what gives you the ability to pull individual panels out of the field of the roof. It's the unseamer. So it's the seamer that's pulling that plow. It's opening the cap back up. It's not touching the panel, not scratching the panel. It's just opening the cap. You can see the sealant. Most everybody uses this hot melt sealant, which is just like glue. So it'll be a wrestling match getting the cap back off. But you can get it off. Right? But we do get to sell you new. So that's good. Here it took about 3 minutes to pull that panel out of the field. And then you can reuse it or replace it. It's not difficult. So this is a great thing. You talk about a roof that lasts 50 or 60 years, it'd be nice if you could fix it. This is a great example of what happened to you, right? This was after Hurricane Harvey. This was a building down in Port Aransas. They had, we're going to do a re-roof, remove and replace the existing roof with an R panel on purlins on a concrete deck. So we had done the first building here, which is going up by the beach. Took off the old roof, put down a brand new roof, attached to permanent 5-foot soon. It was 100% continuous splits. They had sustained 140-mile-an-hour winds there. And the only thing that happened to this roof was that roof blew off and hit it. And we had like 60 panels that were damaged out of about 500. And, you know, that's when they marked the panels to be replaced, and they got replaced. And fast. So, how about this idea of being able to add a curve into a roof after it's been installed? Probably add a curve, right? You can't do this with a double lock standing seam, but on one of these symmetrical panels, you pull the roof apart with the curve incorrectly. That's a giant deal. 24-inch panel, this really saved labor. So this was a job I did up in Oregon for Apple. It was a data center. So this was the original job here. Had this crazy curve on it. But it was a 16-inch panel, and then the second building got built behind it, and it had this 16-inch panel specified. You know, this one is going to be the not so pretty building. The first one was where I saw nobody seeing this, so they took the curve off and they just wanted straight run panels. So I knew that they were going to look for some money. I switched into a 24-inch wide panel from that 16-inch panel. It was a $750,000 saving on 360,000 square feet. So it was about, you know, $2 a square foot. This was the job that these guys were putting. This was a union crew in Oregon putting down 16,000 square feet of roof per day. Continuous clips. So this idea of continuous clips, you got an existing permanent spacing. This is a job in South Louisiana. Continuous clips have to be pre-installed. You talk about that roof's going nowhere. It's glued out there. So this was my light bulb mold. I was on this building in Waxahachie probably two and a half years ago. This was an 840,000 square foot distribution center. It was so big you couldn't even see from one end to the other. Down that ridge. And it was 360 feet from the E to the ridge. And it was factory neutral. So you had to have an FM test listed system in order to play ball in this game. So for me, the FM testing I had at the time was for this panel with a 16-inch width. And so they wanted to replace this roof. They wanted to recover it. It got damaged in hail and did some other stuff. So it was, like I said, 360 feet from the E to the ridge. So I was on this roof. I thought, you know, I need something similar to this big industrial panel for this big industrial open frame metal building work. It solved the problems of these traditional trap soil standing seam roofs that go on these big giant metal buildings. Because they all have the same thing, you know. They all have inlaps. This job itself had 10,000 inlaps. I mean, 10,000 places for the roof would be unbelievable. And they're impossible to fix, right? And then their wind up capacity is not great. So what we need was a side form 3-inch trapezoidal panel that you can fix that gets better wind up with. And so that's the direction I started pushing. And I make all these panels. I make these things on a UTEC SSQ. And so I was like, we need something that can be made in SSQ. You cannot make this shape panel out of SSQ. It's too much. You can't make it on a portable roll former here. So there's too many bends going on there. So we had to change the shape a little bit. But basically, that's what we came up with, which is a 2 3/4 inch tall panel, symmetrical, with a much wider seam. Made it 1.5. But this idea of something to play ball in this market was something I feel like there's a need for it. And so this is what this thing looks like. So these clips are, so the focus here for me is how to really increase the wind uplift without a continuous clip. So because these are going to be, primarily open frame jobs or recover open frame, where using a continuous clip is really a hassle. So how do we really increase the wind uplift with an individual clip? So I just figured if we just make the seam wider and put a whole lot more clip inside there, that it would significantly increase the wind uplift capacity of the roof system. And it did. So you can see that this thing is wider and wider. It's got this triangular shaped hole again. I don't like that, but that's what you have to have that in order to make this work. And anyway, it really very promising. So this kind of shows you the difference between the standard clips for a normal symmetrical panel versus this clip. It's much bigger, much more clip than that. And then we make two clips. One is the standard size, and then in order to really get the wind uplift up, we're making this big super clip, which is 16 inches long. So these things will go into a purlin or into a large joist or into a truss purlin. And so, while this is a gigantic clip, it's a lot easier to install than a continuous clip. It's an individual clip that really steps it up. So, our original testing, we got about 40% better with the regular clip. It's just enormous. And what it does is it changes the way that I look at these jobs on these rectangular buildings, and it reduces the cost of them a lot to get away from continuous clip. So, we'll move on to remove and replace. You got a metal building, they want a new roof. They don't want to talk about recover, they want to do a remove and replace for whatever reason. There's all kinds of reasons to do a remove and replace. You're going to have an existing R panel, or you're going to have an existing standing seam. Okay? One thing that you never want to do is get on an existing building that has an R panel on it and take off the R panel and put a standing seam on. The building is designed for an R panel. The R panel is part of the structure. It's holding the building square. If you take the R panel off and you put a free-floating standing seam up there, you're liable to turn out with a gigantic problem. And I've seen that on a number of occasions. So if you're going to do that, then you really need to have an engineer line you out on what you're going to have to do in order to fortify the structure, in order to produce the diaphragm to replace the diaphragm that the R panel is imparting onto the building. Okay? So if it's an existing standing seam, you can put a new standing seam on it because it's already designed that way. So it's really important. A lot of people just want to take up an R panel and put on a standing seam. You just can't do it. And it may be as simple as doing strapping in the purlins, or you might have to do bridging or something. But you're going to have to do something. Okay. And when you do a remove and replace, you got to meet the current wind load, you got to meet the current snow load, and then you got to meet the current energy code. And most of the time, right now, it's like R4, which is 9.5 inches of bad insulation, or ISO, or I got this new insulation I'll show you called RCAT. Anyway, so you're going to remove and replace with that. The only one you're going to do that with is standing seam. Because if you try to remove and replace an R panel and put a standing seam on there, you're going to have to put so much bracing in there that you can't put the 9.5 inches of bad insulation on top. You're going to have to go over the top of the purlin. You can't go between the purlins with one of those, underliner things, right? Because you're going to have so much stuff in there. So really the issue is you got an R panel, they want to stay and see how you're going to get there. And you got to meet the energy code. So with a standing seam, it's no big deal. You didn't put an R30 over the purlin if your clip is tall enough. You're just going to still smash it down to make that much of a space, which means we're going to get for insulation over the top of the purlin. It's sure in R30, R2 or something, right? So it's just something to think about, So one thing that we've been doing quite a bit of lately is when we remove an R panel and put on a standing seam, then we're going back with a 26 gauge upside down U panel as a liner. So you replace the R panel, you take out the R panel, you take out the bad insulation, you put this 26 gauge U panel on, and then that stabilizes the purlins. And then you go back with polyiso. Here's 5.2 inches of polyiso, ice and water shield. Now you're giving them this super Cadillac job. And then you attach through to the purlins below. Now in this case, on this job in particular, they had a problem. Their purlins, while our roof panel could have met the window with at the original purlin spacing of 5 foot on center, they wanted to add purlins because there was a structural problem with the building. This was at Tyndall Air Force Base in Florida, Panhandle, and they wanted to fortify the building, so we took off the R panel and added purlin between every purlin, and then put down the G panel and put on the ISO and the ice and water shield. And then used individual clips into the purlins at 5 foot on center. So, turned out to be, this is you got an owner that's sick and tired of having problems with their building, that has an R panel roof, and they don't want to spend some dough, and this is a great way to solve their problem long term to give them the best possible roof. It's the same situation, except they kept the purlins at 5 foot on center and we're in a really high wind uplift area. Yeah. This was at U of H. It wasn't super high, but so they had an R panel, and then they had a U panel, and they had foam in between. That was the existence. They had 2 roofs plus foam. Yes, sir.
Charlie, is there a way to meet the diaphragm problem and to do a recover on the R panel?
Yeah, when you do a recover on the R panel, the diaphragm problem never comes up because the R panel is still doing its job.
Right.
Even if it's rusty, it's still doing its job. Right. So here was remove the old roof. And this time we went back with a 26 gauge white. This should always be white, but you just install a U panel upside down. It looks just like a V-deck below. Except it's painted. So now you're giving them a painted white ceiling. And then 5.2 inches of ISO, ice and water shield. This job, it was 100% continuous clips. So 100% continuous clips attached to the purlins at 5 foot on center. So this was a tremendous job. And you took this, how many buildings you done that looks like that, right? You should. And then you give it a mat. So you're totally changing the appearance of the building. So this is something, see how good a salesman you are. These opportunities come. This is a great way. This is really good on these military bases. Building. You should, I know you got some scope for some of those guys. This is a great, they got an R panel building. It's a great way to fix their building long-term fix. Both of these jobs were basically done as change order. So this is this new insulation. And I can't believe I went off and left my scent. It's called RCAT. Okay? This is a rigid insulation board that's got shiplap side, shiplap joint. So you don't have to layer it. It's got a really high R value, it's 7.5 per inch. So R30, 4 inches. It's got a waterproof facer on the top and the back. It's got a tape flap, you can see it hanging here on both, on the top and the bottom. It's 42 inches wide, it nests together, and then they can make it a board up to 53 feet long. And then you can walk on it when you're installed. It's a safe walking platform. So you're talking about, what I see this as is taking guys that are not really metal building open frame guys. Like most roofing contractors probably in this room here are not open frame guys. And it puts you into a solid deck on a metal building. Super fast. So I've done one job with it. It was a remove and replace on a hangar up in Virginia. Pretty good sized building, it's a top secret hangar. They had an existing trapezoidal standing seam on there that was leaking. They had 6 inches of bad insulation. They had no capacity for more weight, no retrofit, so it was remove and replace. So they tore off a 50,000 square foot hangar and put this stuff on, and it was watertight, airtight, for like 3 months. So it's an amazing product, and I think it's something that you should look into. It's called RCAT, R and seal. Okay.
You screw that down with plate? Or?
Yeah, you do a plate. So you put like 2 fasteners into the purlin, into each purlin, and then you put a big blob of goop down where you put your fastener. Because the facer is not like ice and water shield, right? And then you lap it over the joint. Lap it over the purlin. They're right now working on testing their 2-inch R15, 2.5 inch, 4 inch, and 5 inch. They're working on this test here on their 2-inch board right now. Okay? This is the OSHA drop test. That's a 400-pound bag drop by nothing. It's dropped between the purlins and on the joint. So it takes you down. So I look at it like, okay, let's look at one of these big giant, warehouse buildings, tilt-up, bar joist building. You're going to put steel deck, polyiso, cover board, single ply. And I say, insulation, trap heat, 2 components. They're probably pretty good. And then they get a 50-year warranty. 50-year material warranty. Anyway, something to think about. So I really, and so just, check this. Looks really nice on the inside, and it's paintable on the inside. You want to paint it white on white, and you can paint it white on white. This is an 800 square roof building. They put that roof on, they put that insulation on in 5 days. 4 guys, 5 days. They had to build it airtight and watertight. All the trades go to work. It totally changes the construction schedule. That's the big advantage of this stuff. It's not cheap, so it's not going to be less expensive. It's probably twice as expensive as ISO. But you look at it, so how much time did it take off of this job? So anyway, I think it's something really worth it.
What's a comparable time was installed using traditional stuff?
I can't say, but I know it wasn't, because you have to put a roof on, right? So putting a roof on an 800 square metal building, I don't know somebody giving a number. I don't have that time for it, but I know it's not 5 days. couple of months. Yeah, I mean, it's a big difference. And you know, it's interesting, a long time ago, a guy named Brian Gardner, who was a roof consultant in Austin, when I first got in business in 1988, and at that time there was an architect in the Austin market that pretty much had this whole outer perimeter around Austin, San Antonio, all the small town markets. They were doing all that schoolwork, and they were doing it because they figured the formula for the cheap, for the least expensive way to put up a school was to basically do a metal building and put bricks on the outside of it. And then they were putting these 3-inch trapdoors and standing seams on there with 3 inches of bad insulation with hits and valleys and whatever. So, hip and valley on a trapdoor on a roof, not such a good idea. And so they ended up with a lot of issues with these buildings because basically they selected the wrong roof system, and it was, at the time it was the right thing. But Brian told me that the way that they were able to get that switched over really to more traditional construction, which was a 22-gauge steel deck with ISO and ice and water shield, was the construction, it was the compression of the schedule. That they were able to overcome the difference in cost between those two systems by the compression of the schedule. That they would get all the trades to go to work as soon as the ice and water shield was on, everybody went to work inside the building. And so this is real similar to that going back the other way.
So that tape on the seams, that you were saying that other building, they left it open for, not open, just the installation on there for 3 months and it did not leak.
And they had some big time rainstorm. You got a tape flat down the side, and then you got some, then you fill in some foam in between the inlets, and then you got a real wide tape that you put on the latch ones.
What was the final roof system?
It was a 238T symmetrical, it was an 18-inch wide symmetrical standing seam.
The inlets are not shiplap also?
No, the inlets are not shiplap, so they're flat down. Yeah, so you have the infill level foam. Now, the original drawings show like adding an angle to the purlin to support the insulation at the inlet so that you got more support. They say nobody does it. They just lab it on a 2.5-inch purlin.
But it does have to terminate on the purlin.
Oh, yeah, that's terminated on a purlin. Yeah. Here's a great idea about this. You got a 50-year warranty and something that's not going to lose all your inventory in a hailstorm. Why can't you put a standing seam roof on a single block? That's what this thing will do. I did a bunch of this work. I sold my business to McElroy Metal about 12 years ago. And before that, I did probably 20 years job. We did direct application, side form. All you need a quarter slope, steel deck, the attached to it, you need the external duct. You got those 3 things. You can do it. There's no reason you can't do it. And I think there's a business there. So let's talk about retrofitting an existing metal building and structural enhancement. This is like the biggest thing that's come down the road in a very long time. Okay? And so we've always known that when you put a roof hugger on top of an existing R panel or an existing roof hugger. It's a roof hugger. Everybody seen this? Good. 16-inch purlin that's notched out to fit over the ridge of the existing roof panel, right? You put this on top of an R panel or you put it on a low floating standing seam. And a low floating standing seam means the existing panel is floating about a 3/8 of an inch above the purlin. And you're going to smash this thing right down onto the purlin, and you're going to increase the load carrying capacity of that purlin. I don't know how many jobs I've been on where you got up there before the job was going and it felt like a trampoline. And then after you did the roof, damn, it's solid. So what happened? Okay? I mean, it's just science. You're taking a purlin that's 8 inches on the inside of the building, and then you're adding an inch and 1.875 inches to it, and you're making it into about a 9.75 inch purlin. You're making that purlin taller and you're making it stronger. So what's interesting is is they finally decided to figure out exactly what does it do. You know, what is it? You know, how much? And so they spent about $1 million to figure this out. So here's the 3 situations that you're going to run into where you're going to retrofit over an existing roof in a metal building. You're going to have a panel that's installed flat down on the purlin like an R panel. You're going to have a flow floating standing seam, which is going to be 3/8 of an inch above the purlin. And then you're going to have a high floating standing seam, which is going to be 1 inch above the purlin. You get enhancement with this one and this one. R panel or 0 standing seam or 3/8 inch standing seam, because you're taking a roof auger and you're smashing it flat down on the existing purlin. You're not going to smash it flat down on the purlin with this 1 inch space. You have to have a special auger in order to deal with the 1 inch space, and it is called a Model T roof auger. And what it has is you have to use a special fastener that maintains this space exactly. 1 inch or 1 3/8 inch space, whatever the space is between the roof panel and that's what holds the roof auger down. And then you got to have these anti-rotation arms that you screw sideways to the roof. Okay, so if you're going to look at a roof, you're going to bid a job and nobody's done the select work. The first thing I do when I get on a standing seam roof that looks like we're going to retrofit it on a metal building is figure out what that space is. All right. I want to figure this out first. I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to bid the job until I understand what that is, because the cost is completely different. Okay? So, but this doesn't help you. This is just adding weight when you do this, because you don't have that compression onto the purlin. So you're going to be adding 2.5 pounds per square foot when you do that. All right. So this is called a base test. A base test is how you determine the strength of a purlin. So this is a 50-foot wide test bed, and so it's got a 26-foot purlin going this way, a 26-foot purlin going this way, a 27-foot purlin. They're lapping over a rafter in the middle, and then they pull down. So this is a roof auger on top of an R panel, and then below the R panel is a purlin going in the same direction. The purlins are lapped over the rafter. They pull down until they fail the purlin. Okay? Where does the purlin fail? Does the purlin fail at the lap, or does it fail in the middle? You say middle? Who says lap? You are correct. You think it fails in the middle. It fails at the lap. Okay? So it fails a lot way before it fails in the middle. So that's the failure. So what they did is they did like 50 or 60 of these tests, different gauge purlins, different height purlins, different gauge roof augers, different height roof augers, to get all this data. And then they had a PhD engineer write a software program for them so that they could figure this out. So what I can tell you is that my experience now is that when somebody calls me about putting a new roof on their building, I used to think it was really what they wanted was the cheapest thing, which is basically a tall clip. You use a clip that holds the new roof above the old roof, and you attach the clips into the purlins. You got to have a clip that's tall enough to do that. That's the cheapest way. But if you talk to somebody about structural enhancement on their building and taking their building that's not built in 1978, there's no way it meets the current codes, and making it stronger, people, they want to hear about that, what I found. And so just a simple roof auger like this will add about 3 or 4 pounds per square foot to the building capacity, which is more than the new roof you're putting on. So what we're finding is that they hire engineers, and the engineer says, "Oh, there's no way you can put a new roof on this building. It's overstressed." And so this is. I'm going to give you this example. Right? This is a job I'm working on right now up in Pennsylvania. It's some type of armament factory where they make missiles or something. I'm not sure. I just know they're working 24/7, and they can't stop for anything. So they called it out a new roof. And so I recommended a tall brick recover, which is the cheapest, fastest, easiest, quickest way to put a new roof on their building and solve their problem. And then they had an engineer come in and look at their building, and they said, you can't add any weight to this building. In fact, if you do anything, you're gonna have to take the roof off, and you're gonna have to add a purlin in between every purlin on this entire building. So now we're talking about a 30-foot wide hole in the roof, 90 feet long, to, just to add the purlins. You can imagine the disruption, the cost, So I was on this call with these guys. I said, why don't we get you, why don't you get us this information? There's about 10 measurements that a roof hugger needs in order to do these calculations, and then they can run the numbers to see if, what the roof hugger will do. Okay, so we went in, I told them to figure, plus they wanted, to bring us an insulation code. So I had to figure it with this roof hugger, right? This is a roof hugger for an R panel as well. Right? They both go on R panel. This is 4.5 inches tall. This is 1.875 inches tall. So we get the report back, and this added 12 pounds per square foot capacity to the building. So now we've gone from, we got to add purlins between every purlin to, let's go with the full meal deal. Now we want ISO and IC water shield, and then we want to add solar, right? So they got the money and they got the want to, and now we're taking this building where they had zero capacity, and we're giving them a whole bunch of light plus solar. So the roof hugger, with this new information, this new testing they have, what they do is they give you this report. You send them about 10 measurements on the building, and then they're going to send back a report that shows these two pictures, okay? And they're going to say what your existing roof system downward gravity, the gravity's load is. On this building, it was 30 pounds. And then you put the roof hugger on it, and it's going to be 37.5, okay? That's a gigantic number. That's going to be more than anything you're going to put on there. I mean, the worst case, if you went all the way with solar, is like 5.5. The code says you can add 3 without really looking at the building, but you should always look. So I would say I'd say 50% of my total business has gone to roof hugger, because it's a whole different focus for me now. I'm talking about this stuff. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Have you ever come into a situation where, say, the engineer says you can't do anything, and then come with a roof hugger suggestion, and they never heard it, don't believe it, they fight it?
No, I mean, you just show them the evidence. Just explain it to them. Look, these guys have done this testing. And so there's 3 components, right? There's not just the purlins. The purlins are normally the weak link. Like on this building in PA, it was the purlins, the rafters, and the columns. But the column work and the rafter work was simple. It was, this is something they could do without really interrupting anything. The problem was the purlin work, and the purlin is 90% of the time is the problem. So I'm doing some work right now where, unfortunately, they have a high floating stand seam. And the engineers come back and say, you can't add any weight. Well, guess what? We're taking it off. We'll put it back on.
What kind of clips do you use to attach condensate lines and gas?
Use S5 clamps.
Do they, I'm not super familiar, but do they go on like that? Or
Yeah, they clamp on like that. So there's nothing better than a clip too than one of these things, right?
Right, but they make a clip that'll go over.
Yeah, that makes a clamp that goes over. That's why makes the clamp. They can, whatever you want to attach to the roof, you can attach it. They got a clamp.
Is McElroy the only one doing this style panel?
No. You can buy this panel from McElroy, from Barrett, from Magneto, from Metal Sales, from maybe 3 other guys. This panel is mine. trapezoidals.
Why was it necessary to make that corner cut out like that?
You know, it's like, okay, let's say 2 inches of material. So the same stretch out, either 2 3/4 as the same stretch out for a vertical width. Okay? It's still 24 inches. That 24 inches makes both hands. And that strength. The narrow, you know, the trapezoidal panels, one reason they're so stiff when you walk on them on the roof is because there's really only 18 inches of flat in the bottom of a 24 inch wide panel.
Well, if we got you more rugged, more stability, why did you like it? You said, didn't you mention you didn't like that corner there?
I didn't like it at start, I didn't want to do it, but the fact is, it's the only way to solve the problem. And I couldn't get full 3 inches because you didn't get 3 inches out of that new bench, and that was 2 3/4 foot the maximum height. So,
On one of your photos there, you have this panel or something similar over the top, straight over the top of the single ply. No
yes,
insulation, no anything.
that's right.
What about getting a watertight warranty in that situation? Do you have to put an underlayment over the TPO or?
You just need to make sure you know your wet insulation that you're in cast iron, that's what it is.
No, but I mean, McElroy Metal water.
Yeah, sure. Core on to us a little. We'll do what we want to do on that hand. You gotta cover glass, you gotta be trained, all that stuff. But we'll assure that that warranty, you know. They're very particular about their curves, how they want them. I say they, I revert well by the time of the some guys that I'm always at odds with.
Is it like a millimeter type curve?
Yeah, you do it, you know, they want to expose fastener curve. I like the ones that integrate into the panel seams, but, you know, they'll accept one of those flat-sided curves. One that integrate in the panel seams, less fastener, but they're a lot harder to make, a lot harder to install. I got it here.